Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to BlackTideTV. Today is the video you've been waiting for. This is the problematic camos episode on getting your headshots easier in Black Ops 3. I've got a major tip that I'm going to give to you right off the bat. Then we're going to talk about a couple things that can stack onto that tip and a couple of different ways that you can make that a lot better for yourself. Then I've got some class recommendations, some specialist recommendations, and then we're going to talk about a couple other little things that you should know. I've got 9 things in total to talk about today, and it's going to be a very action-packed episode, and I can't wait to start talking about this stuff. But first, let's talk about the gameplay a little bit. This gameplay can only be classified as ridiculous or amazing. I'm not sure, whatever you want to call it, but I'm about to get 18 headshots with the RK5 in this gameplay. It's off the rails. This is like the most headshots I think I've ever gotten in a gameplay, and that's because I just use these tips. I really set out to get headshots in this gameplay. I said, I need an awesome gameplay where I'm going to get a lot of headshots so I can talk about headshots and I can really look like I know what I'm talking about. And I set out, I thought about all these tips in my head, I read it over, and then I started a game, and I got 18 headshots with a pistol in a single game. It's unreal, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about some of these tips so you can do this yourself. This works with all of your weapons that you're trying to get headshots on, and it will just make your life 1,000 times easier to know all of these tips. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about, the very first big amazing tip that you need to think about when you're going for headshots, is that you actually have to aim for the head. Now, that might just seem like a duh, of course you need to aim for the head, but a lot of people still in this day and age of Call of Duty, a lot of people are not aiming for the head. They're not actually trying to go for the headshots. They're just shooting at the body, and they're just hoping that eventually they're going to hit the head just by luck. You can't let it all be by luck. You really have to aim for the head yourself. You have to try to hit that head to get those headshots. It's not as simple as you think. There's a bunch of different ways that you can learn how to hit the head. A lot of different weapons. You have to learn their different recoil patterns. You have to learn where to shoot them to hit them in the head. A lot of weapons, they'll have a certain recoil, certain amount of shots to kill, including headshots that it will take to kill them. And you can't just shoot people right in the head sometimes. Sometimes you have to shoot them in the chest and let the recoil bump your gun up and shoot them in the head for the final bullet. Depends on who you're shooting, when you're shooting, what gun you're shooting. You really just have to practice with all of your weapons and just keep aiming for the head and really try to get headshots. Say to yourself before you get a gameplay, say, I'm going to get 5 headshots in this gameplay, and aim for the head and try to get 5 headshots in a gameplay. That's what I did in this gameplay. I said, I'm going for as many headshots as I possibly can, and I did, and I got 18 in a single game. You can do it too. So the next couple things we're going to talk about are going to be some little side tips on some great tactics on getting headshots in general. Apart from just aiming at the head, these are some other great ideas that you can go by. So number 1 is ADS, but don't be super anal about ADSing. ADSing is really great, and it's definitely going to make your accuracy a lot better. But some instances you really don't need to ADS to get your headshots. Like, for example, make sure you check out the first link in the description. That'll bring you to how to get your headshots with the Haymaker 12 in Black Ops 3 video, where I talked about using the laser sight and hip firing with that weapon, because headshots are a lot easier to get when hip firing the Haymaker 12 for some reason. I don't know why. They just are. It's just the way that the gun is, and I've actually had people come back to me and tell me that, yeah, you're right, that hip firing the Haymaker 12 it gets me a lot more headshots than trying to aim down the sights with it. And it's just the way the weapon is. You gotta be ADSing sometimes. You gotta really practice with all your weapons. You gotta learn how your weapons perform in ADS and hip fire. You gotta know just by playing with the weapon, just by watching my videos, watching other YouTubers' videos, and just learning for yourself, playing the game yourself, and just really figuring it out. You're going to get used to a lot of weapons. You're going to figure out what weapons do best, if they're better at hip firing, if they're better at ADSing. You're going to learn that very quickly when you're using your weapons. And you're definitely going to learn that sometimes you don't need to ADS. So ADS, but don't be super anal about it. The second thing we're going to talk about, the second mini tip, is never waste an unaware opponent. And unaware opponents are like, they're gifts from God for us guys that are going for camos, for us guys that are trying to get those headshots. If there's an enemy and that's standing at the back of the map, AFK, it's the easiest way to kill an enemy. AFK is away from away from keyboard. Stems from computer gameplay, but it generally has transitioned over to be away from controller. Although controller starts with a C, you still say AFK because it sounds better than AFC. So AFK players are just the easiest way to get your headshots. Run to the back of the map. Always be checking the enemy spawn. There's always some dumbass that's just put his controller down for 10 seconds, and they're the easiest guys to get your headshots on. Now, what you just saw just now, I just got a double headshot on 2 guys that were looking the other way. So players that are unaware don't necessarily need to be AFK players. They can just be guys looking the other way. And they can even be guys looking in your general direction, but this is how you're going to work it is generally when you're engaging 2 or more enemies, you shoot at the guy that's shooting at you first. Because he's gonna see you, you want to kill him, you want to get him out of the way, and then shoot the guys that aren't looking at you. Whereas when you're going for headshots, it's going to cost you some deaths. Yes, it will. But shoot the guy that's not looking at you, because he's not going to be hitting you. He's not going to be making your recoil go up and go all over the place. You're going to be having an easier time to shoot him in the head and get the kill on him. So aim for the guys that aren't shooting at you. Kill the guys that aren't paying attention, and you're going to have your headshots a lot quicker. The next thing we're going to talk about is playing stealthily. You're going to want to slap on those suppressors, slap on Ghost and Blast Suppressor, and all the things that keep you off the radar, and run around in the enemy spawn. Play stealthy, shoot people in the back of the head. This is going to be obviously a lot easier for you to aim at people. You're not going to be bouncing up and down when people shoot you, and your recoil is not going to be all over the place. It's going to be a lot easier to shoot people in the back of the head. It's just easier that way. If you're going to be playing stealthily, you're going to be getting a lot more headshots. Now, of course, sometimes you can get a lot of headshots when you're playing rushing, or if you're playing aggressively, of course, but shooting people in the back of the head is always going to work 1,000 times better. They're unaware opponents. It's going to just be a lot easier for you to get kills on them. Shoot them in the back. It's just the best way to get your headshots quick. It's the best way to get your headshots quickly. Now, play objective modes, but don't play the objective. If you're seeing me playing domination here, I'm running around the objective. I'm kind of doing the Slayer job. I'm actually going to end up with like 45 kills at the end of this gameplay, and you can play an objective mode and be the Slayer. You can play the objective and run around and just get your headshots. Avoid the objective in objective gameplay, and you will get a ton of headshots, I guarantee you. Just play an objective mode and just stay away from your friendlies, stay to the edges of the map, and stay away from the objective, and you can just knock off people that are like little outliers, people that aren't really jumping on the objective. You can grab a lot of guys that aren't really paying attention. It's just really, really easy. It's the easiest way to do it. Team deathmatch and stuff is not the way to get your headshots. Your way to get your headshots is objective mode, but never play the objective. Just stay away from the objective, stay around the objective, and kill people that are going for the objective, but don't get on it yourself. Now we're going to transition here. You can hear me flipping through my notes because this is it's a very in-depth kind of video. But we're going to go to the next part, which is starting off easy. Start with weapons that don't have as much recoil. Start with weapons that are stronger. For example, you're going to want to start with weapons that are accurate. For example, the ICR, the M8A7, the 48 Dredge, and the Pharaoh are all great weapons to start with. Most of those are burst fire, but they're very great weapons to start with because they're so accurate, and that's going to really help your accuracy when you move to some of the more inaccurate weapons. You're going to learn using these accurate weapons how to get those headshots easier. Another route to take, and when you're first getting started trying to get these headshots, is powerful weapons. You're going to want to use weapons like the Shiva, the Gorgon, the Kuda, the Man-O-War, weapons that can kill in like 3 or 4 shots, 2 or 3 or 4 shots. They're very, very easy to get headshots with because you're gonna kill people. You're just gonna melt people right away, and you don't need to worry about trying to hit them with 4 bullets and then get the headshot. So these weapons are gonna really tone yourself for getting these headshots as well. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is specialist and attachment recommendations. How to optimize your class for getting headshots. You're going to want to use a recon or a stealth specialist. Obviously, you're not going to be using a specialist weapon. If you're really going for headshots, you're going to want to use like the Spectres, the Spectre for his chameleon kind of turn invisible kind of guy, and the Outrider's Vision Pulse abilities. These are 2 great abilities for getting those headshots because they're going to make you aware of your surroundings, and you're going to just be invisible, so people are going to you're going to be able to be more stealthy. These are 2 great abilities. You're going to want to use high caliber. Obviously, high caliber makes it a million times easier for you to get headshots, and I highly recommend you using I highly recommend you use high caliber. I'm using it in this video. High caliber is only for pistols and assault rifles, but on every single pistol and assault rifle, if you're going for headshots, you better be using high caliber. It's going to make it a million times easier. Now, optics are great on all the weapons, I find, except for the pistols. I find when you put optics on pistols, it makes them a little wonky, makes them a little hard to use, but every other weapon, optics are great. The ELO sight is probably the best sight that you're going to find for any weapon because it's a floating reticle. It's just a floating dot. There's nothing to obstruct your vision. ELO sight is a really great sight to attach on any weapon except for the pistols. Keep the pistols with the iron sights. They feel that, to me at least, that they perform a lot better with iron sights. Now we're going to flip back here, and we're going to talk about some little things, some little tiny things that you should probably know. These aren't things that you necessarily need to do, but they're a couple great ideas if you're still struggling with these headshots. So the first one is get wet. This is completely just like throwing my entire don't go in the water video right under the bus, and it's kind of funny that I'm doing that, but getting headshots is a lot easier when you're swimming in this game, because when you're swimming, if you're shooting at enemies that are also swimming, their heads are forward. I've talked about this in that Don't Get Wet video. When you swim, your head is forward. It's very easy to shoot people in the head when their head is the first thing that you're going to be engaging on their body. So if you're swimming, you can really get a lot of good headshots when you're well in the water. So play games on aquarium. That's a great game, a great place where you can shoot people in the head very easily. Another one is head glitching. It's called head glitching for a reason. That means hide behind a barrel or something and just pop up, and just so people can see your head, it's going to make you level with everyone else's head. It's going to make getting headshots a lot easier. So head glitching is a great idea for getting your headshots. Finally, we're going to talk about something that one of my subscribers reached out to me, and he said he was having trouble with headshots. He said he was having something really weird happen where he was shooting people in the neck or shooting people just above their head, and he was getting headshot medals. This is a very good thing. What he mentioned, what he's worried about is hitboxes. Hitboxes is kind of where on an enemy that you can shoot that you're going to actually get a hit marker. The hitboxes are modeled off the biggest character. So the biggest head in the game, which I'm assuming is Firebreak, but it's going to be, that is your hitbox. So everywhere that you can hit Firebreak in the head is where you're going to hit everybody in the head. So a player with a smaller head, you might shoot just a little bit above their head, or you might shoot them in the neck, and you're going to get a headshot. This is great news because it's going to help you to get headshots easier. That's all I have for headshots, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. We're doing that 300 subscriber giveaway. We're at like 299 subscribers. It's crazy. Very insane. I hope you head down into the description and enter that 300 subscriber giveaway. I'm very excited to do that. Expect a video on that very soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like I said, guys, smash that like button and comment down below if you have any other tips on getting headshots. I'm very glad that you came out to this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.